Surah Al-A'raf verses 131 to 137 on page 166. Surah Al-A'raf verses 131 to 137, page number 166. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإذا جاءتهم الحسنة قالوا لنا هذه وإن تصبهم سيئة يطيروا بموسى ومن معه ألا إنما طائرهم عند الله ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. وقالوا مهما تأتنا به من آية لتسحرنا بها فما نحن لك بمؤمنين. فأرسلنا عليهم الطوفان والجراد والقمل والضفادع والدم آيات مفصلات فاستكبروا وكانوا قوما مجرمين. ولما وقع عليهم الرجز قالوا يا موسى ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك لئن كشفت عنا الرجز لنؤمنن لك ولنرسلن معك بني إسرائيل. فلما كشفنا عنهم الرجز إلى أجل هم بالغوه إذا هم ينكثون. فانتقمنا منهم فاغرقناهم في اليم بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين. وأورثنا القوم الذين كانوا يستضعفون مشارق الأرض ومغاربها التي باركنا فيها وتمت كلمة ربك الحسن على بني إسرائيل بما صبروا ودمرنا ما كان يصنع فرعون وقومه وما كانوا يعرشون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So today's commentary will be a very quick and running commentary. We have been talking about the miracles of Prophet Musa, and Prophet Musa showed them two miracles. He turned the staff into a snake, and he pulled his hand out of his pocket, and it was bright and illuminating. But that was not enough for them. Some of them chose to ignore that miracle, or as we are told in the Qur'an, Fir'aun had a propaganda machine. He had media outlets as we have today, and they were doing their propaganda as well. And one of the things that they did is that Prophet Musa was there for many years. He was there for many months. And sometimes good things would happen, and sometimes bad things would happen. So whenever something good would happen, they would say this is because of Fir'aun. And whenever something bad would happen, for example, there was a drought, for example, there was some difficulty in the city, they would say this is because Prophet Musa and those who follow him are a bad omen. Okay? That was their propaganda. For example, even in this day and age, if an act of terrorism happens, immediately we want to talk about radical Islam. And immediately the discussion becomes about Islam. But when something good happens in a Muslim country, in a Muslim community, nobody wants to talk about Islam over there. For example, we talk about generosity. And they actually did a research recently. It was published 2-3 days ago, and it was also on BBC News as well. Who are the most generous people in the world? Okay. And it wasn't North Americans. It wasn't Europeans. The top country that is the most generous country is Iraq. The people of Iraq were the most generous people. But nobody said that's because of Islam, or that's because of Shiaism, or that's because of their love for Imam al-Hussein. So when something bad happens, they blame Prophet Musa. When something good happens, they took credit for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا إِنَّمَا طَائِرُهُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Whatever happens because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it happen. If something is bad, it's because of their sins. If something is good, it's because of the mercy of Allah, but most of them do not know. Then they say to him that, look, no matter what sign you bring to us, we're just going to say that you are a great magician, because all the miracles that you have brought so far, they are like magic to us. Okay? 2 points over here. The first point is that you find that Fir'aun decided to demonize Prophet Musa, to say bad things about Prophet Musa, even when Prophet Musa was doing good things, which teaches us that if you find that even in this day and age, there are certain states, there are certain governments who are known to be oppressive, who are known to be colonialist, who are known to be suppressive, and they start talking bad about another group, about another people, saying that those people are terrorists, those people are human rights abusers, for example. They are engaged in human rights abuses. The first question that should come to our mind is, what are those people doing right that these people are upset with them? What was Prophet Musa doing right that Fir'aun was upset with him? Number one. Number two, they say to him that, well, you are a magician. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then we're going to bring certain signs which you will not be able to call magic anymore. And we will bring you to your knees. So the next few signs are very different from the ones that came before. What came afterwards? فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانَ. So we sent to them Tufan. Tufan is a hurricane, a flood, right? A windstorm, some sort of a storm that came to them. And not only that, then after that came وَالْجَرَادَ. Jarad are locusts, or like grasshopper. And they would eat all the plants, they would eat all the leaves on the trees as well. They brought about famine. By the way, a question for you. Is it halal to eat grasshoppers or not? Yeah, it is. And it even talks about how to make it halal if you look at Tawdih al-Masail. Okay? Wal-Qummala. Qummala are either lice or they are diseases that hit the people of Egypt at that time. Wal-Tafadi'a. Tafadi' are frogs. Okay? Everywhere they looked, there'd be frogs. In their house, in their bedrooms, in their kitchen, in their living room. Everywhere they went, there was a ton of frogs over there. Life became unbearable for them. Sometimes they have a problem with mice. They had a problem with frogs. Waddama, and blood. The whole Nile, which was the beauty of Egypt. Right? Everybody got water from the Nile. It turned red as blood would. Ayat mufassalat, these were clear signs. Meaning what? Meaning they came one after another. 1 month there would be this, then it would be taken, the next month it would be that, and it would be very clear that these are happening because Prophet Musa says they are going to be happening. Has nothing to do with Fir'aun anymore. فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, but they were too arrogant to accept their mistakes. Sometimes a person is too arrogant to accept that what he's doing is wrong. وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ, and they were a criminal group. وَلَمَّا وَقَعَ عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّجْزُ قَالُوا يَا مُوسَى. Now this is what used to happen. Whenever something bad would happen, whenever a punishment of God would come down upon them, they would turn to Prophet Musa and they would say, Ya Musa, we accept. We ask you to make dua for us. أُدْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ بِمَا عَهِدَ عِنْدَكَ. Pray to God because of the position that you have with God. Because God answers your dua. Because God has made a pledge to you that as long as we believe, He is going to take this punishment away. They would come and beg to Him to do that. لَإِنْ كَشَفْتَ عَنَّا الرِّجْزَى. If you remove the punishment from us, لَنُؤْمِنَنَّ لَكَ. We will believe in you, and we will send the children of Israel with you as well. We are going to free them. And so Prophet Musa would make dua, and the punishment would be lifted. When would the punishment be lifted? فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْزَ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ هُمْ بَالِغُوهُ. This was very interesting. Prophet Musa would tell them the punishment will be lifted in 1 week. And the punishment would be lifted in 1 week. The punishment will be lifted in 3 days. Like he would call it. And it would be lifted in 3 days. Because somebody could say, the punishment is going to be lifted. After 3 months it gets lifted. He says, I told you. No, Prophet Musa would say 1 week. And in 1 week it would be lifted. إِذَا هُمْ يَنْكُثُونَ. And when that would happen, what would they do? Would they fulfill their promise? They wouldn't. They would break their promise. When they did that over and over and over again, فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ. We took revenge from them. The word is revenge. Vengeance. Now this doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like some, has this vengeance in his heart. Or this anger in his heart. No. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them what they deserved. فَأَغْرَقْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. We drowned them in the sea. بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. Because of 2 reasons. 1, they rejected our signs. And 2, because they were oblivious. It seems there were 2 groups of people in Egypt. The first group, they worked directly against Prophet Musa. They would do propaganda against Prophet Musa. They would come out and tell people not to follow Prophet Musa. There was a second group of people. And maybe they were even bigger than the first group of people. They used to say, you know what, don't bother us. Our life is going really well. We are enjoying life in Egypt. We have all the money that we need. Life is good. Why are you bothering us with these problems? To think about whether there is one God or there are many gods, whether we should keep slavery, we should not have slavery. Let us live our lives the way we have been living. They were oblivious to the signs of Allah. When the punishment of God came, it came to the first group, and it also came to the second group as well. The last verse, وَأَوْرَثَنَا الْقَوْمَ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا يُسْتَضْعَفُونَ مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ. And then we caused that community that was being oppressed in the land to inherit the land. مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا. The easts with an S, and the wests with an S, plural of east and west of the earth. Meaning what? Meaning they inherited multiple time zones. Okay? This is one of those verses that you could also use to prove that the Qur'an states that the earth is round and not flat, because you can only have multiple time zones when you have a round earth. الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا. Because when you think of Egypt, you think of desert, right? And you say, okay, so they inherited Egypt. What's the big deal about Egypt and Canaan? These are all deserts. No. Lands which were blessed with vegetation and fruit and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ الْحُسْنَى عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. And God fulfilled His promise to the children of Israel. Because of what? One thing and one thing only. Because they persevered. Because they were patient. When we set upon the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are going to be challenges. And if we stop at the first challenge that we face, we're not going to get what God has promised for us. But if we stay the course, and we struggle the way the Bani Israel struggled, and we persevere on that path, there will come a time when we will have our rights, when we will have established ourselves on this earth. وَدَمَّرْنَا مَا كَانَ يَصْنَعُ فِرْعَوْنُ وَقَوْمُهُ وَمَا كَانُوا يَعْرِشُونَ. And we destroyed those things that they had created, the pyramids and the palaces, and the farms and the crops that they had grown. We destroyed the entire civilization. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.